Hey there, everybody. I want to open things up by thanking everybody who has contributed to our Patreon campaign. We've had a very good couple of months, and I would love to see that continue. So if you're interested in looking at how to support this show and the entire network of shows that it is a part of, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. It's super simple, and it makes a big difference for us. Once again, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Welcome to Radio Free Midworld, a podcast about the Dark Tower series of books and related works by Stephen King. My name is Cole Ross, and today I am joined by Autumn Greer.
Delighted as always.
And by Jeremy Greer.
Hello, how are y'all?
Doing just great, because we're here to talk about this awesome short story / novella. I've never been clear on the distinction. Yeah, welcome back, you two. It's been a little bit.
It has. Gosh, it feels
it's been so long that we forgot how to
like...
podcast.
A little bit of a pause there. Overcast will smooth that out for people. Don't worry. No, I'm really happy to have you two back. What drew you to this to the Little Sisters of Eluria, which is what we're talking about here today? This short story.
This was actually one of the ones I've never read before. That's always what draws me in on this list, is things that I hadn't actually. I've read a lot of Stephen King books, but the outliers I'm always happy to get a piece of.
Nice.
And I read this, I think, around the time that it came out, and just enjoyed it and just liked it and wanted a chance to return to it and talk about it. I really enjoy short stories. I've been reading a lot of short stories recently for something unrelated, but they're just so tiny and so easy to get through, and they're usually kind of have a little 1-2 punch to them. So I'm into them.
For sure. And Stephen King does them well. You wouldn't think that
He
about
does.
all the long books or whatever, but you look at something like Different Seasons, or, even this collection that this ended up in, this, the one where I read it anyway, is full of a bunch of doozies, including one we're going to talk about next year, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, I can't even think about next year. Wow.
I know. It'll be during book 7. Book 7's going to be a little bit of a sprawl of a season.
See that's how we'll start it off when we record for book 7, right? You'll say it's been a while, and we'll wait maybe 10 minutes this time, and then we'll go, yes, yes, it has.
Yes. I thought that you were going to do the whole "it's been a while" thing that Gary does to me all the time. He doesn't do it so much anymore, but I still leave the room for him. So
I'm assuming that's trademarked. I can't bite on that style.
No. I was about to say we have to pay royalties to Stained, but we also have to pay royalties to Gary, and then I think to Comedy Bang Bang, which is where he got that from. Regardless, I'm excited to talk about this. So why don't we kind of jump in with the biographicals here first? Little Sisters of Eluria was first published in 1998. I did not realize it was that early. It was only a year after Wizard and Glass.
Really weird, huh?
Yeah. And it was a part of this kind of novella anthology with a bunch of other authors called Legends. I first encountered this as a part of Everything's Eventual, the collection from 2002. It's the one after Hearts in Atlantis. It makes sense that this came out so shortly after Wizard and Glass, because this does chronologically fall after that. Falls after that, after Went Through the Keyhole, and after some of the comics that we discussed. And also the one comic that we didn't discuss that really doesn't add an awful lot. Did you know that Eileen lived? And did you know that Roland met another girl who looked exactly like Susan and slept with her? Yeah.
It's okay. Good job, guys.
Way to go. And now you know about The Journey Begins.
Don't tell Elda that I dated a girl that looked just like her in high school, okay? That'll make things really weird.
Ooh, awkward. Yeah, you turn those photos around in the album. Honey, why is this yearbook all cut up? I was making a collage.
Yeah. We had weird traditions in my high school, sweetie. I'm sorry.
Even though the comics are really hit or miss, the comic adaptation of this one is pretty good. Just because this is such a short story, they're not actually like doing a lot of like time compression or anything. It's just it hews to the claustrophobic nature of the story in a really cool way. So I would actually recommend that people pick that up. But why don't we get started here? This is a story that is broken up into 6 parts. I'm not going to read the titles of all of them because they are just synopses of what happens. For example, 1, Full Earth, The Empty Town, The Bells, The Dead Boy, The Overturned Wagon, The Green Folk. Moving on, number 2.
Stephen King loves to do this kind of stuff with his titles, and I'm like, man, it's already a short story. Like, why are you giving me the anime summary of what's about to happen in the next 20 minutes of this episode? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, the anime summary. You're going to get us in trouble.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say the dreaded A word. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Yeah. But this opens up just like any other Western story ought to. We've got Roland. He has not reached the desert yet. He has not reached the Mohane. He's actually in the eastern foothills near the Desatoya Mountains. Actually, this is the mid-world / all-world version of the mountains near Desperation, Nevada, which is a strange coincidence. It's an actual mountain range, but it has to be somewhat intentional. But his horse is sick as he comes across this town that is kind of seemingly abandoned. Poor Topsy, you guys. Not just the elephant that Edison electrocuted, but this horse.
Oh, he's only 2 as well. Like, yeah. I mean, I have horses. I'm not even getting on my horse till she's 3. I mean, I know they start some race horses that young, but like, he's not even full grown yet. He's already got the sneezes, and he's with a gunslinger. Like, things aren't coming up Topsy.
No, they really coming up Topsy. That's my favorite musical.
Coming up Topsy, yeah, definitely.
So you say got the sneezes. I don't mean to typecast you as the horse expert, Autumn, but I need to defer to your knowledge. You say got the, is that a thing? Like if a horse gets the sneezes?
That actually is not the thing. But Topsy's not doing well, Cole.
No,
he's not been well.
He has walked greener paths, let's say.
And he's like, in child years, I'm the equivalent of like an 11-year-old boy. Why are you riding me?
Oh no.
Roland is not afraid to put down a horse either. Like he's not afraid to run a horse down to its bare components, basically. And he has the good decency to at least feel, if not guilty about it, at least try to be like, I'm gonna hopefully, ease your suffering or something. But like, he doesn't really care. Like, he doesn't feel guilty at all. I would be in tears by this point. I would be like just blubbering over Topsy.
Yeah.
Oh God,
I'm
why?
so sorry.
Oh.
There's a nice moment later where he brushes the flies away from Topsy's eyes and then is like, they can lay eggs on you when you're dead, not before.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, thanks, bro.
But he's also real blasé. He's walking through a graveyard of a world and says, well, maybe there'll be a horse doctor, but if there's not,
He's just going to find another one of those muty 6-leg horses. Just ride that one around for a while.
Borrow a couple legs from him. Yeah. He's got surplus, but yeah, he gets into this town and it's empty. It's deserted pretty much, except for these 2 sounds that Roland can hear. This kind of distant thumping and this high, sweet singing sound, described as being like crickets but more tuneful. There are signs of massacre. There are red splotches, which Roland says might be paint, but let's not be naive. Yeah, I love this abandoned town. It's described in lots of really good detail. Like, this was apparently a pretty hospitable place too. Like there were flowers hung over the welcome gate that was really big. Eluria, not a bad place, it seems.
I like the note that he makes where, because there's a church and the church is relatively close to 2 saloons. So he says that he thinks to himself that the church was full of rational people instead of crazy people. And that makes me really happy of like, yeah, we go to church on Sundays, but Saturday night we be drinking. Like, we're going to have a good time.
Yeah. This is not the town from Footloose. I should really learn the name of that town because I reference that idea enough.
I think it's almost more elegant saying the town from Footloose, because no one cares what that bullshit town is named.
No, it seems like an awful place. Well, it was an awful place to live, but then Kevin Bacon came along, and so did Kenny Loggins. Yeah, Roland goes in, he inspects the sheriff's office. This is where he learns the name of the town, but also sees kind of this mark in the ledger noting the arrival of the Green Ones about a year ago. So,
What's the name of this book that he finds with all of these crimes written in it? It's something I meant to make a note of it. I must have forgotten because it's not in my notes.
The book of misdeeds and tribulation. What was it?
It's misdeeds and like remisses or something, remits or something. Like it's basically a book of crimes and what we did to fix it. It reminds me of the
misdeed and redress.
Yes.
Yeah, the book. Thank you. Yeah, it reminds me of the Book of the Guilty in Dark Souls.
Oh,
very
yeah.
much, where you can just it's like a leaderboard almost.
You have been indicted. Yeah. Is that is that what you get? I forget. It's been so long.
That was the message. Exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I just I've been working on one of those for the current administration. Ha. Political.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. No. So it's not just this town that is baking in the sun and nearly burnt out. There's also this big trough at the end of the road here. It's made of ironwood, but then also it turns out that ironwood is just another name for sequoia, which is very weird.
Interesting.
I
didn't know that.
Is that a fact from real life, or is that just ironwood?
What I was thinking of was what was the wood that they were harvesting in the last book?
It was ironwood.
But I mean, that's a very expensive horse trough, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be like making something out of polished stainless steel and being like, okay, that's for cows to drink out of.
Yeah. A common name for a large number of woods that have a reputation for hardness. Yeah, and there's just a whole bunch of trees that it otherwise might be. So, yeah,
weird.
They wanted their trough to be especially sturdy because it's not just going to hold water. It's not just going to be the pride of the town and a fixture, but it might be just kind of a makeshift coffin depending on where the bodies lands. That thumping sound, it is a young man's foot that is banging up against the side. As he lays inside of it, and it's got this little doggo pulling on his boot, trying to get it off so he can get at the delectable treat inside. Couple of notes: this dog has a cross on his chest. This is going to be Schrodinger's pup, and also the body inside is floating in what Stephen King describes as skin stew.
Stephen King loves to put bodies in soup. We saw it in The Stand. We're seeing it here. He loves to have bodies in stew.
Yep. Exactly. Oh, and Roland doesn't even get to take him out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Just skin stew, man. Like I'm glad I've already eaten, or else my appetite would be ruined at this point.
Yeah. Well, at least he can still see the body inside. Like it is not opaque. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, it's a young boy, and he is wearing a kind of this medallion that says, "Oh gosh, James, loved of family, loved of God," and he is compelled to pick it up. And as he does so, old Topsy, he gives up the old horse ghost. Falls over right as a bunch of mutants just start rolling down the town. Well, the one in the center is wearing a very jaunty bowler cap.
Because what's the point of being a radioactive mutant if you don't got no style?
Well, you have to peacock is what they call it, right?
Exactly.
Hey, I mean, he's just trying to catch up since Roland has that Duke New 70s medallion, right?
Yeah.
I really like that Roland picked up the medallion because it reminds me totally of King's Quest. Like, you get the fish, you don't know what you're going to do with the fish, you just know you should probably keep it in your inventory just in case.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Unless it's one of those adventure games that has a weight limit, and that's bullshit. Yeah. So he grabs it, and it's actually for a good purpose. And Roland's gunslinger moments, we always make a note of these. He's immediately thinking, okay, do I give him a proper burial? Is there something that I can is there something I can take from him that sticks out that I can give to the next of kin? if I happen to see them down the way. This is explicitly not looting. This is him grabbing something in case he finds them, because he knows that coincidence kind of seems to follow him around, right?
At some point, he must have given this up, because by the time we would meet him in the Gunslinger, he would just be literally carrying around like garbage, like contractor-sized garbage bags full of, dead people belongings, and just in case he happened to see their family at Endworld or something.
Well, no wonder he goes through horses and donkeys so fast.
Yeah, lighten your load, Roland. What are you doing?
Yeah. This is so it's noted, like, and when people talk to Roland and respond to him, he looks old at this point. Like, he must look like he's in his 40s or something like that, 30s. It's remarked that he looks about 20 years older than the young man that we find later on. So this still seems a little bit early on in his quest, because when these slow mutants roll up, he doesn't immediately fire. In fact, he wants to give them a chance to go away, and it makes like a little remark here, almost in the telling, that says, Roland wasn't the kind of person who would fire first, ... yet. Right.
It's a little piece of characterization, right? Like, he's the kind of guy that would straighten pictures in strange hotel rooms, and also not the kind of guy that would shoot first.
Right. He wants to enact the role of the diplomatic side of a gunslinger, at least at this point. I think that, like, this puts a fair amount of temporal distance between him and the Roland that we see in Tall, right? Where the second that he perceives that he's in danger, bullets start flying, including through Alice, right?
And even when he does decide to shoot, he doesn't shoot directly at them. Like, he's still trying to scare them away, which is something that we just don't like. I remember reading this for the first time and going, like, who is this guy? Like, why is Roland not being, Roland at this point?
Yeah. Well, like, he shot to scare the dog away, and he tried to do the exact same thing with these mutants. And you're right. It is very strange to see him, not as hardened as we will eventually get to know him, right? Yeah, but, they're carrying a bunch of, like, piano legs. Like, one of them, it's remarkable, he's got a table leg that has a bunch of nails pounded through it. And he says, oh, that must be from the saloon. The bouncer would carry this. Like, what the hell kind of bouncers have you been around?
I hate to keep making Dark Souls references, but, like, why are you carrying around the nail bat?
Go ahead, Autumn.
There's the same thing. There's a line in there where when he talks about after he shoots one of them, how there's like a hissing noise. It sounds like a gob of spit on a hot stove. And I'm like, who does that?
Yeah.
Who's spitting on the stove and, like, anywhere? Like, let me see if this stove is hot by spitting on it before I put food on it.
Yeah, test it with your hand.
Yeah. Just pour some beer or something on it. Don't spit on my stove, man.
Yeah. These, it should be noted, are the green ones. These are the mutants that arrived about a year ago. They're green, presumably from the radium mine nearby. They're no good, especially the one who gets the drop on Roland. Again, who is this guy? who manages to wang him over the back of the head, knocking him clean unconscious.
And they're surprisingly quick for mutants, too. This is probably the fastest group of mutants we've seen, huh?
Oh, yes. Their name is not accurate. The slow mutants at this point. It should be noted that trade paperback that I skipped over kind of by accident, but I'm also glad that I did, features a Billy Bumbler who is smart enough to yell into the ears of a slow mutant, realizing, oh, the slow mutant has ears that are literally the size of dinner plates. So a Billy Bumbler, deaf into slow mutant with gigantic ears.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what? Screw it. You guys go read that. We're going to come back and talk about it. No, let's not do that.
Okay. See you in an hour.
Yep. No, this takes us to part 2 here. Roland, he's been out. He kind of awakens to this feeling of rising, right? Of being lifted up. And in the small moments when he is able to open his eyes, he sees that he is surrounded by white and thinks that he is dead until he feels a hand on his face. and he is kind of being comforted by this cool hand and also this, the voice of a young woman. He can't see her just yet. When he does, fully come to, he sees that he's in this just kind of expansive hospital infirmary hall that is lined with silk, has these silk walls. Scores of beds are described, but all of them are empty save for his, and then the two around him. There's an old man in one of them and a young man in the other. Go ahead.
This just sounds like a 90s music video, doesn't it? Like maybe like Boys to Men, Water Runs Dry or something. Like, like everyone's out there in the white outfits, the wind's blowing.
Ooh, yeah.
It's very evocative.
Until you said Boys to Men, I was thinking Creed 100%.
Oh, see, this is weird. I was going like 9 Inch Nails with that Closer video where Trent Reznor is just like spinning around in the air, like for no reason.
Ooh, yeah. A lot of
Well, I mean, we could just kind of like average all three of them. That sounds exactly like what the infirmary is like.
Yeah.
It's a combination of Boys to Men, 9 Inch Nails, and Creed.
Yep. We are a version of Girl Talk that would never ever be booked.
This is the worst. This is the worst version of Queens of the Stone Age I've ever heard of in my entire life.
It's a musician's band, Jeremy. It's a musician's band. So, also when he comes to in this very surreal room surrounded by Scott Stapp and Trent Reznor, he also finds that he's wearing the gold medallion. Somebody had taken it and put it on him. And spoiler, it was the young woman who was speaking to him. And before he fades out again, he notices something strange. When he first kind of looked at the old man, he saw this dark scar across his face. When he looked at him again, he saw that the scar was gone. He initially thought, oh, that's my eyes playing tricks. But no, Court came to him. He heard Court's voice saying, hey, maggot, trust your eyes. It wasn't just a trick. That was you, recognizing that something is amiss here. God, even knocked out, Court is just giving him hell. Just won't climb off of his dick. It's kind of sad, really.
It's just like that series Dexter, where his dad keeps talking to him, except it's Court calling him a maggot all the time. It's great.
Yeah. Yep. So this takes us into part 3, where we get to finally meet the little sisters of Eluria. I want to get your kind of opinions on their general overall stees. These kind of shape-shifting, kindly old ladies / crones that are, explicitly not what they seem. Autumn, what's your kind of opinion of the way they either act or are presented?
I really like how quickly they're revealed to be petty. Like the way that they're teasing the youngest one, the way that they're like, oh, who has a crush? I mean, it's very, sitting in a tree, KISSING,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I mean, it's a mean-spirited kind of taunt meant to make somebody feel bad. Like you can tell that they're not nice, benevolent ladies.
Petty is a really good word for it. Like there is a definite like maliciousness to them, but I don't know how sexist this characterization is, but there definitely is the sense of like a bunch of crows just rah, 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 always just kind of like jabbering at each other and like sniping.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and to further Autumn's point, like they're also kind of jealous about this other person that we're going to meet, the one that was comforting Roland just in the last chapter. So
yeah.
Like the pettiness and the jealousness, and just the overall cronishness. I mean, it's just really, it's not satisfying, but it's like they're terrifying and also they're petty, which kind of makes them more scary too, because it's just you have no idea what to expect from them.
Right. You don't know if they're going to deliver some terrible truth that's going to undo you, or they're going to mock your appearance.
Exactly.
Just like Junior High.
The one that you were alluding to is Jenna. So we should draw a distinction between Jenna and the others. The little sisters, they present as nuns who are kind of tending to the injured. They have a glamour up that kind of shows them to be these kind of attractive middle-aged women, right? Just nuns, whatever. Just here you go. Be comfortable. Fine. But Roland's eyes, he sees them kind of morphing back and forth and ultimately revealing their true visages, which are very similar to Rhea of the Coos. Remember the witch from book 4, this shriveled old woman who by the end was basically skeletal, right? And Roland, in his kind of compromised, recently knocked the fuck out state, thinks, oh, she's back. Oh, and there are 5 of them now. Whereas Jenna, the young woman who was comforting him before, she's not like cloaking anything. That's just what she looks like. She's almost like an initiate to this.
Do you think that Roland's better able to see it than most of the people that have ended up with the Little Sisters because of his experience with Rhea? Like, do you think to everyone else they do just look like normal nurses until you don't wake up?
So I'm not sure. The only evidence that we have is John, who is, next to him. We get a long conversation with the young man who is in the bed next to Roland, and he's wary of them. He knows that they're going to die here. I don't know if that's because he sees it as well, or if it's because he has watched the people who were here kind of picked off one by one, waking up and, noticing one more empty bed. Right.
Right.
So
I'm kind of with Autumn. I kind of feel like Roland's exposure to Rhea to some degree allows him to see through all of these kind of disguises, because he's just used to this type of magic at that point.
Right.
And I think the young kid has just seen it a lot. So because because he's just a dude. He's just some like poor kid that he was just on a job when he got trapped up into this.
I'm just a regular kid with a dope medallion.
Yeah,
but I like the idea of Roland having, learning from his experiences with Rhea and being able to apply that to other witches in the world. Yeah,
in the text, it says something about they probably didn't expect to test their illusion up against a gunslinger's eyes, right? So it might also have something to do with the fact that he's a gunslinger. I can definitely read it as a characteristic of Roland's, not so much his cleverness, because I think it's said a little while ago, but I want to repeat it here. That Cuthbert said Roland's mind doesn't turn especially quickly, but it does grind very finely, right? So it may or may not be a product of that. I can't say for sure. Can't say for certain. I want to, side with you guys. I want to, but the forces that be are making me take the opposite. So let's fight.
The High Council that judges all Dark Tower podcasts may come down and give you the wrong ruling, give you a different ruling.
Yep. Oh no. They're gonna send me.
That'll be the iTunes review. Not contrary enough.
Oh yeah. It is. Why do they always agree with each other? Oh, well.
Exactly.
The worst. I was expecting a fight. But, they're standing around, taking these swipes. Jenna, meanwhile, stays behind as they move along and kind of reveals more about the nature of Roland's imprisonment, right? She I forgot to note when I was talking about it, Jenna has this curl of hair that always pops out from under her nun hat. It's named in the book, but I didn't make a note of it. But she stays behind because obviously she's got a thing for him, because it's Roland and all women should have a thing for him. He is the Geralt of the Dark Tower books. Yeah. So she says, hey, and no matter what, you need to keep that medallion on. Also, never let on that it's not yours, right? You are James, you're James. Who am I? Don't worry, you're James. But she also reveals that, the reason he was here, those slow mutants, they started dragging him back to where they were going to eventually take him and probably chop him up and eat him or whatever. And in the process, all the skin was ripped from his back. And so, the little sisters, they were out picking herbs. They saw the mutants and they made their deal and took them back. And then we get to meet the doctors. I love the doctors.
Same.
Because she starts talking about Roland asks about the nature of their sect. Like, oh, do you worship the man Jesus? Like, what's the deal? No, we we're the Little Sisters of Eluria. We serve the doctors. She says, hey, don't scream. And Roland's like, oh, I haven't screamed in a long time. Like, he's pulling off this, he's trying to play it off macho, right? And he finds out, I probably shouldn't have done that because this actually is freaky. She has these bells on her forehead, these kind of dark bells, that ring out not just in sound, but also kind of reverberate psychically. These bugs start crawling out, just a whole bunch of them. They're about twice the size of ants. You know, they're these little black bugs that crawl up and kind of roost on his back. Earlier, he characterized kind of the pain in his back as this tree that was growing up his spine, and it felt like he could feel the leaves moving. Well, that movement was the bugs, because they're up there eating the injured flesh and kind of ushering on the repair. So, hi, I'm Dr. Bugs.
Yeah, just put me down.
Yep.
Yeah, Doctor, I refuse this treatment. I know I could live forever with it, but I just absolutely refuse all of this treatment. I do not like it.
And I feel like everybody has a bug that they could take. Like, if it was ants, I'd probably be fine. I mean, as long as they weren't actually eating me. But I mean, if it was cockroaches, if it was spiders, like, just put me down.
No. I picture them as those scarab, the scarab beetles from The Mummy, the ones that crawled under the skin. The Mummy's not a very great movie. It's also not especially scary, but those bugs, they ruined me as a kid. So that's what I picture them as. Jeremy, what do you picture them as?
I know I'm playing to type here, and I'm going to have something else. I'm just going to keep referencing Dark Souls and Dark Souls video games. But do you remember the spiders in Bloodborne with the human faces?
Absolutely.
Like that. I don't know why, but that's the first thing that popped into my brain was just a bunch of spiders with like weird like bowl cut haircuts and human faces going everywhere. And it doesn't say that at all in the book. But this is when I was reading it yesterday to kind of get familiar with it again for the podcast. That was exactly what popped in my mind, and I hated it. Just a bunch of little spider patches all over my body, and I don't like it.
Did they have little like stethoscopes and those little reflectors on their foreheads?
Of course, yeah. They're fully equipped. They're ready to check you out.
Yeah, they just like rush in, and then like a couple more of them pull in this like computer on a cart, and then they sit at the other end of the room, don't really make eye contact with you, and just like type stuff into it as they vaguely ask questions about what's wrong with you. Then they write you a prescription, then they leave the room. Yeah.
They make you take off your shirt even though you're just there for some leg pain. That doesn't make any sense. Why do I have to take off my shirt?
Yeah, you only have to have a full range of motion. What do you need to escape?
Jeremy's like, can I stop flexing now? Thank you.
I've been sucking in for like 20 minutes. Can we get this over with already?
Do you have a bottle of courtesy oil for my pecs? So Roland is horrified. He manages to stifle back a scream, but that's kind of the deal. We learn by hearing those little sisters speak in this low tongue that was introduced in Desperation, and will continue to be used as kind of the language of demons and for low things. These are the Cantam, is what they are, and they're going to make some appearances later on. Specifically at the end of book 6 and the beginning of book 7. So stick a pin in these Dr. Bugs.
Good.
Yeah.
So happy to hear that.
It's not exactly like Klingon or Valyrian or anything like that, but Stephen King does do a good job with all these little words, like the ones that we saw in Desperation and everything. I mean, it does sound like a cohesive sort of tower-related language.
It certainly does, and I think that's it's especially successful because he does a good job at keeping it guttural and kind of single syllable, right? So he's got the high speech with excellent words like "ka" and dumb words like "popkin," but then this low speech that we're going to be seeing a lot of in the final trilogy that does share these kind of characteristics, and I think that it's not easy, but I think effective to make something that does feel demonic out of it. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. But yeah, they're up there gnawing on his back flesh. Jenna kind of reveals she was taken away by her mom, but brought back because neither of them could stay away for long. And Jenna, she wants nothing more to do with these women or with this whole situation. And she makes Roland promise, hey, also she knows Roland's real name. She knows he's not James. Makes him promise, don't reveal what I've shared. You're like, I will be in trouble, and Roland correctly intuits that trouble means dead.
Yeah, there's no getting out of this alive. This is like the mafia, but for weird witch crones with Dr. Bugs.
Does Roland ever meet a cute young girl that doesn't ask him to immediately keep a secret?
I don't know.
I mean, this is very
yet.
Susan,
Yeah.
Hey, when you see me at dinner with the mayor of this crappy town, pretend we've never met.
Yep. Man, nobody wants to take. Well, I guess Susan didn't have parents to take him back to. Never mind. That was insensitive to that fictional character. I don't know why I got self-conscious about that.
As a type.
He does. Oh, so we're on to part 4 here. The nurses, they then start bringing him some chicken soup. I about said chicken soup for the soul. Hey guys, I'm grieving. No, brought him some chicken soup, which he quickly realizes has been drugged. Not only does it have a no pain medicine in it, it has a no move medicine in it. That's almost an exact quote from the book. It saps him of strength.
It's just a whole thing of NyQuil.
Yep. Oh gosh, turns your limbs into lead.
Whole bottle.
Yeah. But yeah, it saps him of his strength, and it kind of keeps him from being able to move, from being able to kind of get out. We didn't really describe. We mentioned the room. Roland isn't laying on the bed. In fact, he and everybody else, they're kind of being suspended by these like cotton cloth straps, like a harness almost. Basically, the Dr. Bugs are crawling all over them while they sit in fuck swings.
Perfect. Yep.
So
I didn't look it up, but this is somebody's thing, right? Like this has got to be like somebody read this and was like, "Oh, I finally found somebody who shares my thing," and it's Stephen King in this one short story.
Yeah, well, just the way those nurses have complete control over your fate. It's so. I mean, it's scary. It's very scary, and I think that like what I'm not really alluding to here is the fact that Roland is trapped, right? The idea of being basically the idea of a medical professional using their clout and their kind of ability to sedate you or keep you in a place is some of the most effective horror that I can think of, really.
I'm also pretending I'm also pretending in my head that Roland is basically dressed in that same white bandage outfit as Lilu from Fifth Element,
Oh yeah, it leaves nothing to the
Roland's
imagination.
just got those gauze little bandages on. That's his whole outfit.
Man, it's been forever since I thought of the Fifth Element. I wonder if that holds up.
It does. I'll say that.
Okay.
I've watched it relatively recently because I had to washed out my head from the Valerian movie that dude made that was so terrible. I was like, let me go check out The Fifth Element again, and I still like that movie a whole lot. So
yeah, and I heard that Valerian movie was not very good. But yeah, I remember the Fifth Element being just goofy and campy enough that like basically nothing about the production or writing would matter. That like it could get by on that goofiness, right?
Exactly.
That's a fair.
I mean, it gets a little. It gets a little dumb at the end, but I mean, like most sci-fi movies get a little dumb at the end, so I'll forgive it that.
Yeah. So yes, this is an extremely scary and/or hot situation.
That's what I like to call the Duckfeed special right there. It's either extremely scary or extremely hot.
Either. But the young man next to Roland has come too. This is John. And Roland has spotted that he wears a medallion that is identical to the one that he has, and he's able to discern, based on his appearance in the medallion, like, oh, John is James's brother. And he breaks the news saying like, hey, you probably understand why I have this medallion. The reason that John is here, the reason that James is dead, is that they were working as a scout for this party of guards taking care of the shipment of goods. But they were attacked by those slow mutants as they passed Eluria. A bunch of them ended up being taken by the Little Sisters, but, James was left behind because he was dead. There's nothing the Dr. Bugs could do. I'm a Dr. Bugs. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm not Miracle Bugs.
You're going to have to go to Dr. Bug's house if you want miracles.
Yes. Also, they're doing this little kind of maybe gratuitous connection, but I appreciated it. They were talking. One of the other scouts was from Delane, also known as the Dragon's Den or the Land of Lies. You remember Delane from The Eyes of the Dragon?
Yep, the Land of Tall Tales, they called it too, which I thought was a cute little. I mean, he's given a lot of fan service in this.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like Delane enough too. And Delane has been mentioned before. Roland was traveling near Delane when he saw the brothers. All that good stuff. Yeah. So a nurse comes in and starts getting cranky. That Roland's story doesn't really add up, and she starts trying to test his name, but John butts in and says, he does this real, he about gets them both killed, because as Roland is reaching for the name, he says, well, you expect him not to remember something as simple as John Norton, wink wink, my buddy who is definitely named James.
Here's also my Gilead social security number.
Yeah. And a list of my greatest fears and turn-ons. So yeah, no dice for these poor little sisters, but they're gonna feed. Tonight Roland wakes up and hears this giggling sound as the little sisters, along with a stranger who he doesn't recognize, this Sister Mary is her name, feeding on the old man who has been unconscious this entire time. This is fucking scary.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are surrounding him, and Roland describes their appearance like, their teeth are growing jagged, beyond their lips, and they are just straight up going to town. And not only that, after they're done, they decide, well, we want a little bit of dessert. And so Sister Mary comes over and manipulates his genitals with his hands. She jacks Roland off. And then all of the monsters share Roland's product.
Not the first time in a Stephen King short story we've seen somebody scraping stuff off sheets and eating it.
Yep. Which short story are you referring to?
The one.
Oh man, it's bad.
Dedication, right? The one where the maid is in that writer's room and steals his dirty sheets or whatever.
Yeah, she can't stop herself from eating dried cum off sheets.
Okay.
So she just continually eats it, and I believe she somehow ends up pregnant by a writer who stays at this particular hotel, and she doesn't really understand how she did, because that shouldn't work that way, and things get weirder from there, if you can believe it. So this is definitely a thing with Stephen King. It's weird underage sex relationships, and then also eating people's cum in inappropriate places.
Okay. Yeah,
it was in Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Okay, so
I thought that, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, that is the one of the one collection of his that I haven't at least poked through. So, weirdly enough, you haven't dissuaded me, because that sounds fucked up enough for me to be entertained by it.
I was about to say, are you ready to poke through it now, Cole?
But I looked at this and I think, okay, yeah, this is good. This is mixing sex with horror, and also, I don't know, vampires, they eat one bodily fluid for power. Why wouldn't they delight in one of the other ones?
Yeah, or even if not delight, then just use it as a fear tool. Use it to scare their prey. Because,
yes.
Vampires like it when they're people that they eat are a little bit scared. It toughens up the blood or whatever they call it. So
he didn't scream about the bugs. What else can we try next?
It has to be terror sweat. Yeah, no, it's a known fact. Adrenaline adds a certain umami flavor to the it's basically vampire MSG.
Sure, I'm into that.
Little accent seasoning.
Yeah, just throw some Mrs. Dash on that bad boy. Sorry,
Roland having to kind of hide the fact that he's watching these women eat the old man, and he's kind of horrified by it. Is maybe the second time in this short story that Roland was kind of mentally preparing himself for something and thinking that he was strong enough to do it, and then not definitely was not able to.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously he withstood it, but he didn't realize it was going to affect him as much as it did, which I found really interesting. Like, this is a cool time period in Roland's life where he's not the big badass that we know from the future books, and he's not even like the kind of blessed by destiny child that he was in the prologue sequence of Wizards and Glass. So
for sure, yeah. No, like it's him not just making mistakes because of how dire the situation is. And the situation's pretty dire, right? But because of his just kind of, let's say, immature resolve, or just he hasn't seen everything yet. Basically, he thinks he has. He thinks he has, but not so much at this point.
Yeah.
So Roland wakes up, and when he looks over, there's no sign that the man was even there. I think it's described that either when the old man dies or when John dies, it's like that bed could have been empty for 100 years, which is a little bit of a small clue about the nature of things right now. By this point, Roland's wounds are healed, but he is still incapacitated, right? And either, I think, with the conversation with Jenna or with the conversation with John, Roland has realized that the thing that has kept both of them safe, the only reason that they were not last night's meal, is the fact that they are both wearing these medallions. John isn't sure if it's the gold or the god that is keeping them away, but there's obviously some kind of aversion, right?
Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But Roland feels something under his pillow and determines that, Jenna had left him a note along with this bundle of reeds, basically saying, hey, nibble on these once an hour to get your strength back. Be sure to be super careful, though, because any more than that, and you get cramps, convulsion, and then death.
I love that it's the flower of the crystal methamphetamine plant that only grows in Eluria.
I just hate the idea of getting cramps while you're bedridden. Jesus.
Yeah, I can't imagine that at all.
No. But it's a little bit scary when he uses it as advised, right? Because he feels enervated almost, like he gets his heart races and his muscles knot up. It's hard for him when the sisters come in to even hide the fact that he's uncomfortable, right?
He could just chew up a little more, pop up out of the bandages, and go outside and turn over a police wagon or something.
Yep. Oh, man. How does this one taste? I'm not afraid of cops anymore. Yeah.
Definitely not afraid of the police right now.
He's got that, and slowly over the course of the next couple of days, he's going to use that. But this is where Sister Mary comes in and confronts Roland, right? Just pushing him to reveal, his real identity, and also to take off the medallion. I like the tricks that they use for this, and again, their characterization remains petty, to the point where she's like, "Oh, that useless thing," or do you think it's keeping you safe? They also try and say oh no, it's after John dies. So oh, he took it off. He thought that it was part of his sickness.
Yeah, good try, ladies. You guys may be drugging me with the slow down drug or whatever you call it, but I'm still here. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard some girls on the schoolyard say that medallion made you look stupid.
Yeah, that medallion making you look really heavy, Roland. It's not flattering.
Yeah, it's real. It's a real kind of wide. It's terrible for the line of your body, Roland.
Exactly. Your name is in horizontal stripes. It's not good.
Nobody will say this to you, but I will be a true friend to you. You got to ditch the medallion, Roland.
Yeah, you have a little medallion in your teeth.
Oh my gosh, Roland, put in this grill. It'll keep the vampires away.
Oh man, I want the next reincarnation of Blade the Vampire Hunter to be just wearing a complete gold grill with crosses in it. Man, that would be the raddest thing ever.
It would be. It would be very much.
He couldn't get punched in the face anymore.
Nope.
Well, true. Yeah.
But in this negotiation, and as she, tries to get Roland to admit that he is not, in fact, James, she starts using Jenna as leverage, saying that, she has been sent to the thoughtful room, kind of this exile, for the little sisters, who have not been doing their meditations long enough. So basically they realize, hey, we can't harm you physically, but we can harm somebody you love.
It's really interesting, the breakout on this, because obviously she wears the dark bells, so I think they say at one point she's almost more like she's royalty, like she's a princess, but because of her age and I guess status by being brought out by her mother and brought back in, I mean, she's obviously the lowest on the totem pole and they have authority over her, so it's an interesting little power dynamic.
Yeah, what you're alluding to is almost the fact that there's like a resentment. This information that I forget when it was exposed. I have it marked later. But what is eventually exposed is like, yeah, her mother took her away when she was young, but they had to come back. And through some kind of trial or some kind of ritual, she was rewarded with these dark bells. We're going to see what these dark bells do. All of them have these bells kind of on their, tiara, their headpiece, or their nun hat, as I referred to it before. But this confers almost some kind of like ceremonial status, but not really any real authority or clout within the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of all the, they have many reasons to resent Jenna, and that is but one of many. Roland goes under again, and he only comes up when he hears a stranger enter the room. And back into the scene is one of our slow mutants from the town, and his name is Ralph.
Of course it is. I was going to bring this up a little bit later when we were talking about Jenna at the end, but Jenna seems like a very anachronistic name to me. And I know it's a fantasy novel, like there is no such thing as like what names were popular back then or whatever. But Jenna just seems like such a 90s or a 2000s name to me that I can't get over this, weird vampire nun chick being named Jenna and this other dude who's a green mutant just called Ralph. Like it's just it's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear Jenna and I think of Jenna from 30 Rock, so it's very hard for me to I'm in kind of a similar situation. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Attention, 5's a 10 is ringing her bells.
At my last job, I literally had three women named Jenna working for me at one time. So like at the same time. So it was kind of ridiculous. The whole Jenna situation. That
is so confusing. I know it's a little bit like the birthday problem, right? If you're in a room with like 20 people, you're going to share a birthday with somebody. Like there's a weird way statistics work out. At my last job, the last job that I had, there were like 7 Chris's, 4 Josh's, and then before I left, I should have known this is when they were going to replace me. Somebody was hired into the marketing department whose name was Cole, and it was spelled the exact same way.
No,
oh nice.
I know, it was so eerie.
Oh, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Hi,
can't
I'm
believe
new
you got
Cole.
single white emailed or just now hearing about it.
I got single white. Sorry. Oh man. Yep, that is. I didn't expect that reference. Anyway, Roland goes under again. He hears the stranger. Ralph comes in. Hi, I'm Ralph. I'm a mutant. I am paid in tobacco and whiskey. And they brought him in almost kind of to be a Shabbos goy, to operate the elevator buttons, except this time it is, somebody who has not made their covenant to take off these necklaces. But Ralph knows that, they're not going to be legit with him. So he thinks, hey, I've got to get out of the situation. So I'm going to instead tear open John's throat, and in the resultant feeding frenzy over the spray, I'm going to beat my escape.
Proving that even though you're green, you can still have few smarts left in you.
Yeah. Well, you have
Radium.
to. You have to learn to be adaptable. You just
Sure.
develop these extra compensatory muscles, because I hear it is not easy being green.
Is radium actually a mental superfood? Should I be checking this out and adding it to my supplementation regimen?
I think so. And you know what? There are a lot of people who get it for free, and it's unfair.
It's totally unfair. Yeah. Just because they live in the radium mountains.
Gross. But yes, poor John. The medallion, his medallion, is thrown across the room as they all go into their frenzy. It is no good for anybody. As we round into the very final leg of the story, Jenna comes in to roll in the next day, and she's not in her habit. Instead, she is dressed in these traveling clothes. Got a plaid shirt on, got jeans. We are going to roll. She also brings his gunna and his guns too. That's part of the reason why they knew that he wasn't all that he said he was, because he is carrying these gunslinger's guns. So he could not be this basically gun for hire, right?
He could not be James. If you're carrying around gunslinger guns, your name is not James or Jenna or Ralph.
No.
It's Roland or Arthur or Guinevere if you're a lady, maybe. I don't know, but it's definitely not Ralph or Jenna.
No. 3-syllable minimum.
So you don't think anyone ever called Roland's dad Big Steve of Steve Deshane?
King Steve, the prequel to King Ralph. Didn't expect that connection to be made. So this I think, or around here, is where we learn more of the specifics about the fact that Jenna is this kind of royalty, but never really fit in. She wants to go, right? But also she confesses that she's not exactly human. She is she has dined with them, she has supped with them, and even though she is terrified of what might happen if they leave, it can't. This can't go on. And this is when Sister Cocina comes out to confront them. The only reason I say cocina, even though that is definitely Spanish for kitchen, that's how they said it in the audiobook version of this. However, the audiobook version, it's the only one where somebody made the decision to voice Roland kind of with this cowboy drawl.
Oh,
no, that's not the way he talks at all. So who knows how who knows how trustworthy that is. That is also one of those audiobooks that has like weird little like musical interstitials at the beginning of different chapters and things. And they're different. They're different. Like it's a different style for every story. So like this one has like a Western theme. I think that he heard Gunslinger and saw he was in a desert and thought that Roland would sound like fucking John Wayne.
He just looked at the cover art and was like, I got this.
Yeah, I can roll. Oh, but Sister Cocina is like, hey, you're not going to leave because you know what'll happen. And Jenna says, well, fuck you. I've got the dark bells, and let me show you what I can do. She shakes them harder than they've ever been shaken before. And Roland says that if a battalion of bugs came out to gnaw on his back, well, a whole army came out to take Sister Cocina down. Swarming over the beds, basically blackening every surface as they overrun, this little sister and reduce her to nothing.
I really, really like this. I mean, it's the same as it is with a lot of medications. A little bit'll help you, a lot of bit'll kill you. I mean, I like that the doctors can be used for healing and for just straight out murdering grave witches.
Yeah. Well, it's the dose that makes the poison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like one dog is a pet. 50 dogs is a problem you need to deal with immediately. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Jeremy?
I wanted to agree with Autumn that I really like this too. Like the fact that she can control this and it just was with these dark bells just like works for my inner fantasy nerd to an absurd degree.
Yep. And it's especially grim once we realize how these bugs fit into the ecosystem, right? Into the dungeon ecology of this traveling camp. And it is a traveling camp. As they escape, Roland realizes that this hospital was an illusion. It wasn't like a grand pavilion. No, in reality, it was like this dingy Red Cross tent with a couple of cots in it, right? They specifically allude to the Red Cross on the top of it. So I like that. Again, that little crossover there.
I love the traveling evil just in general. I mean, we see that in Needful Things. We see that with Randall Flagg in The Stand. I mean, the fact that evil packs up shop and moves from town to town causing chaos. I mean, same with Eyes of the Dragon. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yeah, well, Roland said, he knows a couple of towns in the area. He says, well, now they're the Little Sisters of Eluria, but next week they're going to be the Little Sisters of Tejas. They're going to be the Little Sisters of so and so. Like they go from town to town, basically clearing them out and feeding on them, while under the guise, of being religious. And in my head, I keep on making kind of a link or a comparison between them and Sylvia. Remember Sylvia from Tull, right?
Yeah.
Just the fact that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and I'm sure that they took the tent to like Ogdenville, Brockway, and North Haverbrook too, right?
It really took them off the map. Oh man, on the drive between here and Milwaukee, I think you pass a town called Ogdenville or something really similar to it. I made a point to pull over and take a photo of that. Take a photo of the sign and send it to my brother. 'Cause we have whole conversations that are just the monorail episode from The Simpsons. But yes, Jenna has remembered to pick up John's medallion. And this is a little bit heartbreaking, right? Because Roland, in understanding that she is different, he might have entertained the notion that Jenna would not be subject to the same kind of limitations or curse or covenant or whatever, but that is quickly dispelled when he sees that even contact with this has charred her hands, right? And he kisses the wounds. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so she's different because she's helping him escape, but she's not different enough to obviously get away from this curse or whatever that it is.
Right. So if they go away, she will eventually need to feed, or who knows what this will bring. And part of the terror that Jenna's facing, is the fact that she doesn't really know. She was a young girl when she was taken away before. Obviously, she was brought back for a reason. Her mom wouldn't have delivered her into the shark's mouth like that, for no good cause. But even the other little sisters are not clear. They say, like, you're walking into the unknown, like, something terrible will happen, but not exactly what. So there is this tragedy to it, even though they have this connection and she wants to travel, she wants to share Roland's path. It kind of can't be. And we realize that right now, and we see how that manifests, later on at the very end of the story. As Roland is kissing, the burn marks on her hand, Sister Mary emerges. She is just completely distraught that one of her sisters is gone, has been taken by the doctor bugs, and she is taunting them, basically knowing that they are out of range of the bugs, of the can something or other. The Can-Tam. There we are.
Can-Tam. Yeah.
Yes. And so they it's time for a showdown. Not all of us are going to walk away from this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Stephen King Western, so somebody has to die at the end.
Yes. And so, like, hey, Jenna, return. Roland, he has drawn his gun without really realizing that he has drawn it, and Mary taunts him, saying, oh, that won't do any good for me unless you have dipped it in either holy water or sacred blood or sacred semen. I'm more shade than flesh, right? So he says, all right, I'm going to gouge your eyes out. What do you guys think of that description of him rushing at her and grabbing onto her face and being horrified that her skin kind of ran and got soupy around
around him?
Oh, man, It's so gross.
Yeah, because at this point, all the glamour's away and Mary's the furthest gone of all. She is described as a walking corpse in a funeral shroud.
Oof.
Yeah, that's some kind of gross.
Yeah. And, but that's not enough. Roland alone cannot do this. But hey, remember when I mentioned Schrodinger's pup earlier?
Yeah, Chekhov's dog.
Yeah, not Schrodinger's pup. Yeah, Chekhov's dog. There we go. It either is or isn't a dog. No, the dog introduced in the first act appears in the third to finish the job. Basically, he's described as the shadowy creature who, leaps out and starts devouring Sister Mary. This is the dog who has the cross on his chest because of the holy symbol. He is actually able to harm her. And Roland and Jenna make their escape. While she is, I was about to say, while she is distracted. No, while she is dying.
Yeah, while she's been eaten by a literal Deus Ex Canina, or whatever the word for canine is in Latin. I think this is probably, I like the short story a lot. I think it's very spooky. The dog with the fur cross around his neck being the thing that saves the day is some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. This is ridiculous.
Well, especially with and I won't get too far in the weeds since we'll be talking about this on Salem's Lot in the future, but I mean, the dog must have a lot of swagger in there to have a lot of belief in that cross, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, totally. Not, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're absolute.
So this is a dog who was very firm in the conviction of his belief. Let's say.
He's like, every time I roll up to someone and show them my chest, I can do what I want.
Yep.
All the belief I need. Rough.
Yeah. But yeah, they go away before this dog, which, that's a real unpredictable actor. It has the taste for both human flesh and vampire flesh, which puts both Roland and Jenna at risk. They go away. And we get to the ending of this, which is pretty sad, but also bizarre in a way that is hard to, it is hard to reconcile. It's hard for it to land as much as I think Stephen King wants it to. I appreciate this more as kind of like a curiosity than I do as like something that's supposed to be romantically poignant, because they escape, they're walking, they're running through this field of sage. They finally get far enough away. They stop. She says, "Will you kiss me as a man kisses a woman?" And Roland recognizes, this is the first time he has felt love for somebody since Susan, which is notable and important, right? Like in book 5, Eddie, they're talking about it. Roland says there was really only one woman after Susan, and this is it. Jenna is it. And so they go asleep, surrounded by the purple smell of this sage. And when Roland wakes up, she is gone. The line that describes what happens makes a little bit of sense, recognizing that Roland says, such as them might never die, but they might change. Jenna's apparently been raptured. Her clothes are laying there. In fact, like, stuff is still tucked in. It's almost just like she disappeared while her clothes remained. And surrounding them surrounding him rather, in the field are these bugs. The bugs singing the same song that the doctor bug sang, the same cricket sound that he heard in Eluria.
I thought she was just a big old bag of bugs. It turned out, and he had fallen in love with a bag of bugs.
Yeah,
we've all been there, right, Cole?
Oh man, high school girlfriends I'm 2, joking. 4, and 6. No,
I really thought that's why all the bugs were around, is she was giving him one last look since she was just a whole bunch of bugs.
Oh.
And that's why the old woman's skin was moving under her, is she was also, like her face and was melting and everything. I thought she was just a whole bag of bugs too.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I also had that read on this as well. I thought she turned into a big old thing. I thought she went back and joined the Cantina basically as bugs that were used to be in a human form. But
right.
I
you
really
can say big old bag of bugs. It's
fine. big old bag of bugs. No, so sure. I agree with you too. I definitely believe that is what happened. However, I don't think that she was bugs all. She wasn't bugs all along. God,
all the way down.
She wasn't bugs all along. Instead, the Cantam were kind of the final life cycle of these vampires, right?
You just don't want to think about Roland doing that romantic smooch on that bag of bugs.
No, it's fine. It's definitely like Roland fucks demons. Like it's okay. I'm not going to look aside at
don't bug shame.
No, I'm not going to bug shame. If Roland can kiss who Roland wants to kiss. But I definitely saw it as
wow. Thanks for the permission, Cole.
What? Why did the bugs make the letter C? I didn't get that at all.
It's described. So they make the letter C. He thinks that it's the letter C, the letter in the high speech, but in reality, it's the shape of the curl of hair that keeps on popping out.
Oh,
that's why I made a point of mentioning that earlier in the description. Like normally that would be like a detail that I skip over, but like that's how the bugs are communicating. Like her consciousness, like, she should no longer have any of those memories. Once the one becomes many. But there is something about her connection to Roland that has her not only talking to him by making shapes, basically talking to her the way that people in like stadiums will hold up cards. But also singing his name or singing something that sounds similar to Roland Lowenstein. Yeah.
Now I'm all bummed out. That's really sad.
I know, right? So maybe it does land. It's just, again, the fact that she, whether or not she was a big bag of bugs all along, the fact that she the fact that at one point she went from young woman who loved Roland to millions of bugs who loved Roland is a bit of a bummer.
You can't take one bug and put it in your knapsack, Roland, and just carry the bug around with you. Wouldn't the bug like to see the tower too?
I mean, forget romanticism. Just from a practical point of view, like having some of these boys around to like mend your wounds seems like it'd be a very hi, this is my girlfriend, she's a bag of bugs and she heals me.
Pick up the bells, put them in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Scott Summers and I'm with the X-Men and this is my girlfriend full of bugs.
Yeah.
What about bugs?
when somebody wants to psychically attack me, they send me to the black bug room, and when I'm feeling horny, I go to the girl room. The girl bug, the Jenna bug room. I just wanted to let people understand. I wanted to signal that I know what the black bug room is. Is that so much to ask?
Nope.
So, and that's where this ends. Roland continues to walk. Eventually, he'll find a horse. ... or a mule. Like he has at the beginning of Gunslinger. I can swear that he still hears the bugs singing his name, but it ends on this really melancholy note that Roland is walking on quite alone. Poor Roland.
I know, I'm a wreck over here.
It's a bummer. It sucks.
I mean, he's got a type, and it's girls that die within just a couple weeks of meeting him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting faster. With Susan, at least, they got to experience sexual intercourse like a few hundred times before she died. Like, this was just one kiss, and then she was dead. So, like, the next time that he, sees a woman in a library, he's like, hey, you're cute. And she's just going to instantly fall over with a heart attack.
Yep, and then turn into a swarm of mosquitoes and fly out the window.
I did wonder why Roland just fell asleep. He was like, wow, I sure am interested. And no, I'm just going to go to sleep. I mean, he was pretty sick. I mean, he did get beaten up by those mutants and drugged all that time. Like, I mean,
right.
I get it. But I was kind of like, man, you couldn't have. Come on, Roland.
Like at a certain point, I mean, he definitely could have sealed the deal. But I think that's addressed. Like as they're making their escape, they only get like 5 or 6 miles, and it's not because of her. It's because of him, because he, no matter how many get up and go reads she gave him, he was definitely still doped as fuck.
I really thought you were gonna do the Aerosmith thing. No matter how many get up and go she gave him, he just got up and went.
Nope. Yeah. So I think he was tuckered out. I think he was a real sleepy boy. And when he came to, she was gone. So I hope everybody was real excited about meeting all these vampires. vampires who are, again, pretty similar to the ones we're going to see in Salem's Lot next episode, but also vampires are going to factor very heavily into the last trilogy of the book. I want to throw it to you two, starting with Autumn. Kind of final thoughts on this short story, especially because this was your first time reading it.
I loved it. I mean, I think he says it in a little clip introducing it in the book that he means it to stand alone and be appealing to fans, and I think he nailed it. I mean, there's a line at the beginning where he kind of thinks to himself when the mutants are beating him up, like, surely, you know, my Ka isn't going to leave me out here like this, beaten to death in a town. And everyone who's already read it is like, ooh, I know it won't, Roland. Ooh, I know you're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's really good fan service. I mean, just even at the end when he's like, well, maybe he'll find a mule eventually, but for right now he'll walk. I mean, I got good fan service. It was an interesting story. I didn't know where it was going. I thought it slotted really well into the universe, especially, I mean, some of the stuff with the names and everything, like John. I mean, it fit really well with things that were written 10 years ahead of it, 10 years after it. So
yeah,
A plus.
Jeremy?
I mean, except for the bag of bugs.
Except for the bag of bugs.
Yeah.
And God Dog.
Yeah, God Dog. Yeah, I can't unconditionally love it because of the ending is so goofy. Like the God Dog is just one of the silliest things. Like I was reading this. I had a bit of an insomnia the other night, and so this was like 1:00 in the morning. And I'm sitting in I'm like trying to go to sleep in my living room reading this book, and just like almost literally laughed out loud at it in an empty room because it was so dumb. The girl bug stuff doesn't bother me as much, but that kind of just removes so many points from the overall spookiness and kind of coolness of the setting and these characters that I can't like unconditionally love it. But everything up to that was really fascinating, really good. And it's hard to remember that this came out. It was after book 4, but before book 5.
Right.
So, you know, I was so hungry for I almost said Dark Souls material, for Dark Tower material, that just, you know, this little bitty glimpse into the past of Roland that didn't involve a 500 pages worth of love story. I was so very much into. So just having that, I was really excited about. And reading it back now, I really enjoy it. But man, God Dog just loses so many. It's like Wife Arm from Bionic Commando.
Yeah.
Just you get there and you're like, nope, can't. I'm like, you could have had the best time ever. But God. Yeah, now you have a Wife Arm and a God Dog, and I'm out. You lost me at Wife Arm and God Dog. So.
Wife Arm just makes me so happy. Like, obviously that story beat in that game is fucking ridiculous. But every time somebody mentions that, I think back to the Joystick podcast about that particular thing, and they just went on for 20 minutes about Wife Arm. Sorry, I'm talking about podcasts I listened to 10 years ago.
That's okay. No, it's worth it. I mean, Wife Arm is something truly special, man.
It really is. Yeah. I enjoy this quite a bit. God Dog, I don't think bothers me as much as you, even though I can understand that it is desperately dumb, especially with the rules that are introduced about the way vampires work in this. But what have you? What sticks out to me are two things. Weirdly enough, this is, I think, outside of the non-flashback Dark Tower material, this is the only young Roland story that we get that is not explicitly framed as Roland telling the story himself. With most everything, he's either telling it to Brown and Zoltan, in the desert, or telling it to Eddie and Susanna and Jake, as they're doing their travels. Like, this is just a story about Roland that is told straight, from a perspective. So structurally, that's really interesting. I think, talking less in a meta way, but more about the actual, subject matter as presented here. I love how claustrophobic it is. I love the fact that, we see Roland incapacitated a lot. The entire second book was him sick and dying and going crazy on a beach and being dragged along in a wheelchair, right? We see that quite a bit. But here that is used to pretty unique effect, and also to very good effect, to show just how much Roland is under the power of these nurses, to show, just how dangerous he is, and the fact that really the only thing keeping him safe is attached on this tiny little chain Like there's there's a tension inherent to this story that does make this, much more in line with a horror story than a lot of the other Dark Tower material, right? And so that I think sticks out to me and makes this really work. In addition to the fact that, the little sisters themselves are just such a good and economical horror antagonist, specifically for Roland. And the horror of the Dr. Bugs cannot be oversold, and I'm happy that we're going to see them later too. Yeah, so I think that's just about everything that I have to say. Thank you very much for coming on and talking about this, Jeremy and Autumn.
Hey, thank you for having us. This has been great.
Yeah. Where can people find you online? I'll start with you, Autumn.
You can find me on Twitter at Mrs. Greer. That's at MISSUS Greer. You can also find me on the Duckfeed Slack in the Radio Free Midworld channel.
Awesome. Jeremy?
I haven't seen Autumn in the Radio Free Midworld channel in quite some time, so I think she's lying to us, y'all.
I haven't been there in a while either. So.
I learned.
You can find me on Twitter at JG Greer. I do another podcast on the Duckfeed Network with Cole's partner Gary, called Days of Future Cast, and I'm mentioning it because we have finished our X-Men animated series run, and we have moved on. So what's coming out right now are a couple of episodes of the old 90s Spider-Man cartoon, which is surprisingly good. Yeah. They did about 5 episodes that crossed over with the X-Men team, so nice. We're covering those first, and then we're going to dive into something that I'd never heard about until Gary brought it up and suggested that we cover it, which is Avengers United, which was also from the 90s, but is kind of like off-brand Avengers. So none of your Captain Americas, none of your Thors, or none of your Iron Man. It's all like Great Lakes Avengers, basically. So we're kind of really excited, and the outfits are ridiculous and dumb, and it's going to be really exciting to cover. So come over to Days of Future Cast and come check it out.
Awesome. Yep, and you know where you can find me, shows at Duckfeed.tv, and doing streams and videos at Twitch.tv/DuckFeedTV and YouTube.com/DuckFeedTV. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening to the show. Next episode is going to be about Salem's Lot. The one after that is going to be about the Regulators, and then we are moving on to the Wolves of the Kala. So I am burning through those and trying to get ready for that season. It's going to be a good time. We hope to see you there. But until next time, long days and pleasant nights.